So my hobby is books. I was wondering what to talk about, and I've got so many things I enjoy doing, like, you know, painting my nails and baking and watching TV. But the one thing that I have loved since I was a little girl, and I mean a very, very little girl, is reading. Um, in fact, I've always dreamed of having my own library, and whenever I designed my dream home as a child, I always put a library into it. So I've finally gotten this. This is my own home library, and it's not much, but it means a lot to me. Why am I saying books instead of reading? Because reading reading is not just books. Reading is checklists. Reading is newspapers. Reading is advertisements. Or you can read what's on the ticket. You can your train ticket. You can read what's on a menu in a restaurant or a cocktail menu in a bar. What I love in particular about books is so many things. So what I love reading in particular are books. I've got some examples here of different types of books that I love. The first one I want to go through is my very favourite book. And this is why I love this one. This is books as an object. Why I love books as an object. This is a copy of Pride and Prejudice by Jane Austen, and it was my grandmother's. It's got her name in it. And it's falling apart. I really should get it recovered. But I have read it so many times, and I love the story. I love the reading this book, Pride and Prejudice, and I love reading it in this particular copy. It brings me joy, and it calms me down, and it heals me every single time I lift it up and I read from this particular book. Whether it's the fact that it was my grandmother's, whether it's the fact that it's lovely to touch, whether it's the typeface that's easy to read, whether it's the illustrations, the fact that it's got these beautiful little illustrations in them. So many parts of it are special to me. So this is my favourite book, and this is why I love books as an object. Other things about books are the visual appeal of books. So I love reading graphic novels, particularly the French bande dessinée, and I also read a lot of Japanese manga or Korean manhwa. But the colours, the drawing, the art that you can see, and at the heart of it all is the stories, and all the way you can lose yourself completely in the world of stories. Then, as you can see, doorstops, hardbacks, small paperbacks. I have a lot of art books. I have books in three different languages. I have books in English, in French, and in Italian, because I speak those three languages. A lot more books in French and English and in Italian, only a handful of those, and after all, a lot more books in English than in French. I learned how to read in French and in English at the same time, in French at school, and my mother taught me how to read in English. And I remember very clearly the very first book I read by myself. It was the Ladybird books, and it was book 12A, is the first one I read all by myself. It was about an adventure in the castle, and ever since then I've never stopped. I read very fast because I tend to become absorbed in the story, and I want to finish through it, and I want to find out what happens to the characters. So, for example, this book here, A Suitable Boy, first time I read it, I finished it inside of a week. That's a big book. Now, I have a number of different favourite authors. One of my favourite authors in English would be Terry Pratchett. I have his books here, some of his books. I have all the Discworld series. And I also like a lot of Agatha Christie. I have some books that I read over and over again, other books that I have kept because they mean something to me. I don't keep every book I buy or every book that I read. Some of them I borrow from people and I give them back, or I will buy books and I will pass them on. The ones I keep tend to be the ones that are special to me. I read books from, I borrow them from the library. I read books that we'll put in a cut there. I read books online as well, ebooks. And I just think reading is such a wonderful way to understand other people, other cultures, people from the past, just how people think differently. I've learned so much from reading. It's opened my eyes in certain ways, reading about people's experiences. It's helped me to understand others, I feel, because I find that I don't, unless I read about their experiences and hear things through their voice, I can't. Okay, I'm going to cut all that bit out. So, finally, some of my favourite authors I've mentioned: Terry Pratchett. Another author I love reading is John Irving. But really, I will read anything written by anybody, as long as it's got a good story, or some decent writing, or some very good characters. I have a rule that I have to read the first 60 pages. I have a rule that I have to read the first 60 pages of any book. If I'm still really not into it after 60 pages, then I'm allowed to give up. I do tend to be unforgiving of simplistic writing or bad writing, unless the stories are good or the characters are excellent. I love rereading books for children. I would read young adult books. I read literature. I read books that are written almost 300 years ago, like Tom Jones, Henry Fielding, as well as modern books that are newly published. Another thing is, I do have some regrets. Some books that have gone missing and that I'm never going to get back. Some books that I've lent to people. And I feel they're lost. Even though I can buy new copies, I miss the fact that I'm not going to see those friends. There's two books in particular, Captain Corelli's Mandolin by Louis de Bernière, and another one is The Magicians of Caprona by Diana Wynne-Jones. Specifically The Magicians of Caprona by Diana Wynne-Jones. It was a second-hand copy, a hand-me-down from my older cousins, and I lent it to somebody, and I know I'm never going to see it back, because I'm never going to see that person again. And I regret the fact that I'm never going to see that book. I miss it. It's been over 20 years now. And I still think of it. So anyway, yes, one of my main hobbies is books. Reading them, enjoying them, and learning about things from them.